Assalamu alaikum dear students. In the previous video we have seen the direct proportion. In this video we will see the inverse proportion. Okay. So previously in the direct proportion we have seen that direct proportion means as one quantity increases, the other quantity will also increases. For example, if the cost of one pen is 10 rupees, then the cost of 10 pens will be 100 rupees. Means if the cost of number of pens increases, then the cost of pens also increases, right? It means that number of pens and cost of pens are directly proportional. And if the number of pens decreases, the cost of pen also decreases. If 10 pens cost 100 rupees, then one pen cost 10 rupees, right? It means that the cost of pens and number of pens are in direct proportion. As one quantity increases or decreases, in the same way the other quantity increases or decreases. That is the direct proportion. Increase with increase or decrease with decrease. That is the direct proportion. And in direct proportion we take ratio A upon B is constant. A upon B is constant. If A and B are in direct proportion, if the quantity A and quantity B are in direct proportion, then we take their ratio A upon B as constant. Okay. Now we will see the inverse proportion. Inverse proportion means as the one quantity increases, the other quantity corresponding to it decreases, or if the one quantity decreases, the other quantity that is depending on it increases. Let's take an example of inverse proportion. If two men can complete a work in 10 days, two men are there that can complete a work in 10 days. दो आदमी हैं, वो एक वर्क को पर्टिकुलर वर्क को 10 डेज में कंप्लीट करते हैं. देन 4 मेंस will complete it into how many days? It means that as the number of workers increases, the number of days, this is the number of days, decreases. So दो आदमी एक काम को 10 दिन लगाते हैं करने के लिए, तो 4 आदमी उसी काम को करने के लिए 5 days लगाएंगे. So as the number of workers increases, here the number of workers is 2 and 2 men can complete a work in 10 days, then 4 men can complete a work in 5 days, right? So here as the number of workers increase from 2 to 4, the number of days to complete a particular work decrease from 10 to 5, right? As the number of workers increases, the number of days decreases. So this is the example of inverse proportion. Here the number of workers is inversely proportional to number of days. Okay, and we write inverse proportion as A is inversely proportional to B. A is inversely proportional to B. This is the symbol of proportionality. Okay, A is inversely proportional to B, and in case of inverse proportion, A into B is always constant. A into B is always constant. Okay, what in case of direct proportion? In case of direct proportion, A upon B is constant. A upon B is constant, that is their ratio is constant, and in inverse proportion their product is constant. Clear? Now see some examples. Some volunteers have gathered to dig 90 pits for a tree plantation program. One volunteer digs one pit in one day. If there are 15 volunteers, they will take 90 by 15 equal to 6 days to dig the pits. 10 volunteers will take 90 by 10 equal to 9 days. Are the number of pits and number of volunteers are in direct proportion. So here is the question that we have to dig the 90 pits for a tree plantation program. 90 गड्ढे खोदने हमको 90 pits और 15 volunteers है. So 90 by 15 that will take 6 days. If the number of volunteers 10 volunteers are there, then they will take 90 by 10, that is 9 days. Okay, so if 15 volunteers can dig 90 pits in 6 days and 10 volunteers can dig in 9 days. So as the number of volunteer decreases, यहाँ पे decrease हो रहा है ना, यहाँ पे 15 volunteer है, 10 volunteers है. So अगर काम करने वाले कम हो रहे हैं तो दिन ज़्यादा लगेंगे, है ना. So this is the case of direct proportion or inverse proportion. Yes, this is the case of inverse proportion, because as the number of volunteers decreases, the number of days that is required to complete the work increases. See another example. Suppose Sudha has to solve 48 problems in a problem set. Sudha has to solve 48 problems in a problem set. If she solves one problem every day, she will need 48 days to complete the set. But if she solves 8 problems every day, she will complete the set in 48 by 8, that is 6 days. And if she solves 12 problems a day, she will need 48 by 12, that is 4 days. The number of problems solved in a day and the number of days needed are in inverse proportion. Their product is constant. So here, Sudha has to solve 48 problems in a problem set. So what is constant here? 48 problems. 48 is constant here. Sudha has to solve 48 problems. So if he solves one problem in a day, then he will take 48 divided by 1 problem in a day. Then he will require 48 days to complete a problem set, right? If she takes 8 problems in one day, if Sudha solves 8 problems in one day, 48 by 8, then it will require 6 days to complete the problem set. And if she solves 12 problems in a day, 48 by 12, if Sudha solves 12 problems in a day, then he will require 48 by 12, that is 4 days to complete the problem set, right? It means that if Sudha solves one problem in a day, then 48 days are required to complete the problem set. If she solves 8 problems in a day, then in the 6 days the problem set will be completed. And if Sudha solves 12 problems in a day, then in only 4 days she can complete the problem set, right? It means that the number of problems in a day is inversely proportional to the number of days. Number of problems जो कितने solve करती है एक दिन में, that is the number of problems solved in a day is inversely proportional to the number of days. अगर एक दिन में एक प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करती है तो उसको 48 डेज रिक्वायर होंगे. तो यहाँ पे अगर एक दिन में 8 क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करती है, एक दिन में 8 क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करती है तो उसको 6 दिन की रिक्वायरमेंट होगी. तो हियर द नंबर ऑफ डेज, नंबर ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स दैट इज टू बी सॉल्व्ड इन अ वन डे is increased from 1 to 8, then the number of days is decreased from 48 to 6. That means that a number of problems that is to be solved in a day is inversely proportional to the number of days required to complete the work. Okay. Always remember, in case of inverse proportional, अगर दो क्वांटिटी A and B इन्वर्स प्रोपोर्शन में है, A और B इन्वर्स प्रोपोर्शन में है, तो इस केस में क्या होगा कि देयर प्रोडक्ट A इंटू B इज ऑलवेज कॉन्स्टेंट. अब नाउ इन दिस क्वेश्चन यू कैन सी दैट हियर which thing is constant? Here 48 is constant, 48. So 48 is constant. That is the number of problems in a problem set is 48. That is constant. Okay. And what is variable? This is the constant. And what is variable? One day requires 48. One problem requires 48 days. अगर वो एक दिन में 8 क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करती है तो शी रिक्वायर्स 6 डेज, और अगर वो एक दिन में 12 क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करती है तो शी रिक्वायर्स 4 डेज. सो हियर द वेरिएबल क्वांटिटीज आर द नंबर ऑफ problems to be solved in a day and the number of days. Here one question in a day requires 48 days, 8 questions in a day requires 6 days to complete the problem set, 12 questions in a day requires 4 days to complete the problem set. And if we take the multiplication, that is 1 into 48, that will be equal to 48, that will be equal to constant. 8 into 6 that is 48, 12 into 4 that is equal to 48. It means that यहाँ पे constant जो term होगी, constant term वो होंगी दो वेरिएबल जो इन्वर्सली प्रोपोर्शन में है उनके प्रोडक्ट के इक्वल. इस क्वेश्चन में क्या था, नंबर ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स इन अ प्रॉब्लम सेट 48 ये कांस्टेंट था 48, और एक दिन में कितने क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करती है वो, और कितने डेज़ की रिक्वायरमेंट है, कितने डेज़ लगेंगे, वो इन्वर्स प्रोपोर्शन में थे. तो हेयर 12 and 4 आर इन्वर्स प्रोपोर्शन. तो उन दोनों का जो मल्टीप्लिकेशन जो होगा वो कांस्टेंट टर्म के इक्वल होगा. ओके, नाउ लेट्स सॉल्व सम प्रॉब्लम्स. 15 workers take 8 hours to build a wall. How many hours will 12 workers need to build the same wall? 15 workers. If 15 workers work together, then they take 8 hours. Then if 12 workers will work together, then how many hours will they need? अगर काम करने वाले कम होंगे तो दीवार को बनने के लिए ज़्यादा टाइम लगेगा, राइट? तो यहाँ पे कांस्टेंट टर्म क्या है और वेरिएबल टर्म्स क्या है? Here we can see that the workers, number of workers and the number of hours are in inverse proportion. अगर workers कम हो जाएंगे तो घंटे ज़्यादा लगेंगे, है ना? तो here number of workers into number of hours equal to constant. ऐसा लेंगे हम क्योंकि नंबर ऑफ वर्कर्स एंड नंबर ऑफ आवर्स ये इनवर्स प्रोपोर्शन में है. 15 वर्कर्स टेक 8 आवर्स, सो 15 इंटू 8 इक्वल टू हाउ मेनी आवर्स विल 12 वर्कर्स नीड टू बिल्ड द सेम वॉल. सो हियर 12 वर्कर्स सपोज नीड x आवर्स. ओके, 15 इंटू 8 equal to 12 into x. And this is clear. That is, see here, 12 into x equal to 15 into 8. 12 into x equal to 15 into x. That is 12x equal to 120. So x equal to 10. Thus 12 workers will take 10 hours to build a wall. Another example, a 40-page class magazine is to be written. If one student would require 80 days to write it, how many would 4 students require? 40 पेज क्लास मैगजीन हमको लिखनी है. 40 पेज क्लास मैगजीन इज टू बी रिटन. वन स्टूडेंट रिक्वायर 80 डेज. अगर एक स्टूडेंट उस मैगजीन को लिखता है तो ही रिक्वायर्स 80 डेज टू राइट इट. देन इफ 4 स्टूडेंट्स वर्क टुगेदर, अगर 4 स्टूडेंट्स एक साथ काम करते हैं तो कितने दिन में काम खत्म होगा? तो दिन कम हो जाएंगे, राइट? हियर वन स्टूडेंट कैन कंप्लीट द writing of magazine in 80 days, then 4 students will complete it in how many days? So this is the case of inverse proportion, because as the number of students increase, the number of days will decrease. So here we will take the product of them. Inverse proportion में हम क्या करते हैं? Always we take the product, and in direct proportion we always take their division or ratio. Okay, so here 1 into 80, that is 1 into 80 equal to 4 into x, or we can take 4x equal to 1 into 80. So x equal to 80 by 4, that is x equal to 20. Okay, so 4 students require 20 days to write the magazine. Let's see the another example. Students of a certain school went for a picnic to a farm by bus. Here are some of their experiences. Say whether the quantities in each are in direct or inverse proportion. Okay, so here some students were gone to picnic and they have some experiences from that picnic, and we have to write from these below examples, from these their experiences, that these are in direct proportion or inverse proportion. So first experience was each student paid 60 rupees for the expenses. हर स्टूडेंट ने 60 रुपीज़ पे किया फॉर द एक्सपेंसेस. सो 45 स्टूडेंट कितने रुपीज़ पे करेंगे? 45 into 60. 45 into 60. So if each student pay 60 rupees for the expenses, then if there were 45 students, then obviously 45 students will pay 45 into 60, that is 2700 rupees were collected. If there had been 50 students, अगर 50 student होते तो कितने रुपीज़ कलेक्ट होते हैं? 50 into 60, that is 3000 rupees were collected. So as the number of students increases, 45 students will pay 2700 and 50 students will pay 3000 rupees. So as the number of students increases, the amount is also increases. It means that the number of students and the amount are in direct proportion. Now let's see another example. The another experience of the students was the sweets shop near the school gave 90 laddus for the picnic. There was a sweet shop near the school and the shopkeeper gave 90 laddus to the students for the picnics. Okay, the 90 laddus diya. So 45 students will go to picnic. If there were 45 students that go to picnic, देन ईच विल गेट, तो हर एक को कितना मिलेगा, अगर 90 लड्डूज हैं तो हर एक को कितने लड्डू मिलेंगे, 90/45, that will be equal to 2 laddus. Each student will get 2 laddus. If there were 30 students to go for the picnic, then each student will get 3 laddus. Okay, so as the number of students decreases from 45 to 30, the number of laddus that will be get by each student increases. So if number of student decreases, each student will eat more laddus. Okay, so this is the case of inverse proportion. Okay, because number of student increases, the number of laddus for each student increases, right? So it is the case of inverse proportion. The next experience of the students was, the farm is 120 km from the school. The farm was 120 km from the school. The bus went to the farm at a speed of 40 km per hour and took, अगर 40 km per hour की स्पीड से हम गए तो हमको कितने आवर्स लगेंगे, 3 hours to complete the tour. And on the return trip the speed was 60 km per hour. So यहाँ पे स्पीड हमने 40 से 60 इंक्रीज कर दी, 40 to 60. So here speed is increased, so we will come to home early. So the speed of the bus and the time it takes are in inverse proportion, right? अगर हम 40 की स्पीड से जाएंगे तो हमको 3 घंटे लगेंगे, 60 की स्पीड से जाएंगे तो 2 घंटे लगेंगे. So the speed of the bus and the time are in inverse proportion. A farmer picked 180 boards from his trees. Then if there were 45 students, then 45 students will got 4 boards. The 180 boards हैं और वो अगर हमको 45 स्टूडेंट्स में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करना है तो ईच स्टूडेंट को हम 4 बोर्ड्स मिलेंगे. एंड इफ द नंबर ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स वे 60, if the number of students increases from 45 to 60, then each student will get 3 boards. So as the number of students increases, the number of boards that each student get decreases. So these are in inverse proportion, right? So here we have seen the introduction of inverse proportion. In the next video we will inshallah see the exercise of inverse proportion. Okay, Allah Hafiz.